Welcome to SoulBlazing. I'm Lisa Haisha, and my guest today is a former CNN journalist and the chef and founder of Soupelina. Let's welcome Elena Fuhrman. Hi. So great to have you here.
So good to have you.
I love meeting you. We met through your daughter,
Yeah.
who was teaching my daughter singing lessons.
Yeah.
Yes, and when we met, it was just like kindred souls.
I know.
Yeah, I fell in love right away. I mean, our lives and our journeys were just so interconnected, but so different. And what I love about you is you just live life so fully, and you're such a strong woman, and you raised amazing daughters.
Thank you.
Yes. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how you made it from Russia to the United States, how you got to work at CNN as this journalist.
We don't have enough time.
I know.
But I left the former Soviet Union from Moscow in 1989, 3 weeks after the wall came down. And I did not know there was a wall because they just didn't tell us, they forgot to mention that,
Right.
They just erected that wall in the middle, but I got to see it on CNN. Interestingly enough, I was translating for different organizations, and I was at one of the international hotels in Moscow, and all of a sudden I see everybody stop, and they had these big TV monitors, and before anybody in the Soviet Union had TVs that big. And people were staring, and some people were crying, and some people were cheering, and some people were throwing their hands up in the air and hugging, and I was like, what are they doing? Somebody's like pulling bricks from some wall, and like, why are they all cheering? And so then I got it, they all got explained to me. And in an interesting twist of fate, I came to the United States, people here really embraced me, and I think I was just very fortunate that because I didn't know anybody, and I came by myself. And I had $61 in my pocket, and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, thinking, "Oh, I'm going to America, and I have so much money, $61."
Right. That's a long way. Don't you love the innocence? If you really knew what it took to do something, we'd never do anything.
For sure, yeah, totally. And but somehow it worked out. I don't know how and why, but it did. And but why it worked out is because there's so many amazing people who opened their homes and their hearts and their souls and helped me, and I was able to change my visa and become a student at the University of Wisconsin. And that's how I became a journalist, because I was studying to be a linguist in Moscow, and that's why I was translating. I spoke English. And so they asked me what major I wanted for my graduate school, and I said, "Oh, I wanted to learn computers. I've never seen a computer before, and I'm going to write code." And they asked me to go see a professor at the computer sciences, and he looked at me and he said, "I don't think you'd enjoy sitting at the computer 24/7 and writing code. I just don't see that as your personality. Look a little longer, see what you can." So he handed me a catalog. And again, I grew up in a completely different part of the world. We didn't get choices like that. And so I'm leafing through a catalog of different majors and classes and just fascinated by it all. And then I found journalism, and I thought, wow, you actually get to tell the truth and get paid for it? That's kind of a foreign concept, because, what happened to people in my country when they told the truth, they got sent to gulags.
Right.
So here you actually get paid for telling the truth. And, I always wanted to tell the truth, and I got in trouble for it sometimes. So so I thought that would be a really cool major to have, and I studied journalism. And in '91, the whole Soviet Union broke apart, and Yeltsin stood on the tank, and everything changed. And because I was a token Soviet in Madison, Wisconsin, because I went to school in Madison, I was asked to start working at the local ABC affiliate to help them put together stories about the Soviet Union and the falling apart and Yeltsin and all of this. And so that's how I got into broadcast journalism. And then fast forward years later, I ironically got offered a job at CNN. Ironically, I mean, it was wonderfully, but because CNN would kind of open my eyes onto what's happening in the world, because I didn't know what was happening. And here I am, at a reception, meeting Ted Turner for the first time, and saying, "You are the reason I'm here." And he goes, "What do you mean?" and I said, "I'll tell you what I mean," which was kind of an interesting twist of fate. So CNN was an incredible experience. it took me all over the world. And
But what was it like going to Afghanistan and
yeah.
being, you were in the field, right? So
Yeah.
what was that like?
Well, I called it false sense of security because, even though you're in an active war zone, you're not in the middle of the fire. It's not like, bullets are flying over your head and things like that. But that said, because we were, so Afghanistan was the war that changed the way journalists were treated and seen. And this is the first time that, journalists were kidnapped and seen as kind of bargaining tools versus, storytellers, And so it was a very dicey situation, although it was kind of underground. I mean, we would wake up sometimes and we would see leaflets that were offering, $50,000 for a dead American and $100,000 for a live American, which incited poor people who lived there to try and get you in because that way they get paid. It was exhilarating. I called it the James Bond syndrome, because you don't know what's going to happen to you any moment. You don't know if you're going to go to bed. You're going to actually wake up because they can throw a grenade into the building.
What was that like having two young girls and going there? That a little scary if you don't come back.
It really was. Well, Isabel was my younger one was very young, so she doesn't really remember much. But Madeline was very aware and very scared because when I arrived home from my war training before I headed off to Afghanistan, I had my flak jacket and my helmet and lots of medications because I was going to the Wild West basically. So if something were to happen or I was injured or somebody else was injured, I had to be, I had tools to help, everything from easing the pain to identifying wounds to doing whatever was necessary, basically. So, so I had all kinds of medications and drugs on me, and cash.
Yes, yes.
And that was a really interesting sight because I thought it was kind of cool because I'm such a badass. I come home with like a flak jacket and a helmet and like all that.
But it's real. It's real.
And then
life.
the next day I get a call from the teacher that Madeline is in tears. And I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? I didn't even think.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things that always stuck with me was the fact that there was not a single standing building. Everything was like half blown up. There were like caves, and it felt like you were in a completely different part of, not just part of the world, but it's not even being to poor countries, which I've been to plenty. It's literally being like centuries away from civilization and from where the world is. But in the midst of all this, there was a lot of hope, and it was very interesting to watch Afghan people transition from living in fear under Taliban to getting those glimpses of hope. I was there when the girls went to school for the first time, and that was really exciting. It was very exciting to see.
Watching the kids over there go to school.
But they were not just kids. They were some young women who were not allowed to ever go to school.
Right, because of the Taliban. Yes.
Who went to school.
So what was that like?
Oh, incredible.
Just dirt, right? Because when I went to some of these places, their schools were literally on dirt, just like huts and small little chalkboard, if that.
Yes, not even, yes. Not even huts. Yes, lots of dirt. Kids, adults, young adults, women, sitting around writing with twigs on pieces of paper and dipping in ink. No school supplies, no anything. But the excitement.
Yeah, I always tell that to Ava. You got to study. You know how many people aren't even allowed to study? I mean, it's such an honor to have all the resources we have. But then after you did all of these fabulous things and had all these adventures, you ended up getting cancer.
I did.
You got cancer. So talk a little bit about that and what was your first thought? And you have these two girls and
here I was having the time of my life, right?
And you're like,
traveling
there's
all
no
over
time
the world.
for cancer. I don't have time for this.
Yeah, so actually I was in Brazil, and I was getting ready for my 40th birthday, and I wanted it to be all white, just like, in Copacabana, I wanted to be on the beach, bare feet, and have it all. So I was all excited about that, getting ready for my 40th birthday, and instead of the party, I got cancer, so that's my story. But in retrospect, it actually was one of the best things that happened in my life because it refocused me. It was a kick in the butt that I needed to look at myself very differently than I did before because I kind of was going and I was doing a lot of exciting and wonderful things, but I never sat down to think about me, and I think that's why it hit me, because, cancer is a very emotional disease, and breast cancer especially, it has to do with, breasts are associated with nourishment and love and care, and when we neglect that, so many women get that, and so that really put brakes on everything I was doing, and I realized, because I always had my life was crazy. I mean, I barely slept. I was waking up at 3:30, so I had to be at work at 5:30 a.m. And I would come from work, and I would pick up the kids from school, and then dinner and homework and activities, and then barely back to bed, and then wake up again. And I worked weekends, and and it was just like it was a never-ending thing, and it was great and exciting. And I never thought that there was something wrong with that, because that was my life, and that was fun, and I loved it, and I loved every part of it. But after my diagnosis, I had to figure out what it was all about, and what I'm all about, and what do I want to do about it. And one of the things that I realized when I was presented with what I call a red carpet of treatments, which is the surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, and drugs, I said, I'm not doing anything. And of course, the doctors thought that I was crazy, and they sent me to a shrink, because they said, obviously something is wrong with this lady.
You need an alkaline body is what you need when you have cancer. Yeah.
So, so I did. I went to a shrink, and I told her how wonderful my life was, and she goes, wow, that's really interesting. I really don't get a whole lot of people that come to me and tell me that their life's great. I said, yeah, everything's fine in my life. I just have this cancer thing.
Yeah,
and she goes, okay. So let's talk about that cancer thing. And so that's how I kind of got onto my wellness journey. And I was really resistant for a while to do anything about it. And then I got another kick in the butt from a friend who told me, who basically, instead of most people, when you have cancer, they feel bad for you, right? And instead she yelled at me, and she says, what, you feeling sorry for yourself? I said, as a matter of fact, I do. And she goes, well, get up. You're a great journalist. You can do this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm dying. And she's like, no, you're not. You're very much alive. And so it was one of those things where I hung up the phone, and I was like, whoa, what just happened? She just literally did like this to me.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, and it was good. And so it did wake me up, and I put on my investigative journalist shoes, and I took a walk into the wellness. And on my path, because of my journalist credentials, I was able to get on hold of, big doctors and scientists and pathologists and alternative care practitioners, and everybody who was dealing with some form of, looking into and whatever, looking for cure, which now I believe is kind of baloney in a way, because there is cure, and
the cure is natural.
Yeah.
Yes.
And but it's not just natural; it's more complex than that. But that said, I've kind of I dove into that, and I was. Every appointment that I went to, I asked questions, and I recorded every doctor, and I created a line of soups, which is what I have now, and that's how Soupelina came to life.
Soupelina.
Yeah, Soupelina, and wrote a book.
And I started ordering.
Yeah, and so this is kind of Ayurveda and Chinese medicine and naturopathy in a bowl, because the goal was to strengthen my immune system and to reprogram my genetic code and change the epigenetics of my genes, because we are born to believe that we have a blueprint, DNA blueprint, that cannot be changed, but that's not the case anymore. There is a new study called epigenetics. And epigenetics, is looking into how to change your DNA. And that's fascinating and very new and very cutting edge. And by working with all of these different doctors and scientists and pathologists, I was able to kind of stumble upon it and create my own little, protocol for myself, and heal myself, and in the process, create a company that now helps other people heal.
Delicious soups.
Yeah, thank you.
You delivered them to me. So
Yeah.
fantastic. Yes.
Yeah.
So you cured yourself from cancer with these fabulous soups and a whole program. Like you
Right,
said, it's
yeah.
not just as simple as what you eat,
Yeah.
but it's reprogramming your mind,
Exactly.
your mindset, and doing healing rituals, really.
Right.
And it's really about who you hang out with and your thoughts, and eating, exercise, meditation, the whole thing.
The whole thing.
But everyone should look up Soupelina because it's amazing.
Thank you.
And now your daughters are vegetarian, vegans.
Yeah.
So let's introduce them. Fabulous daughters. Yes. We got Madeline and Isabel. Yes. Hi.
Hi. Good to see you again.
Thank you for coming on. This is
course.
great. Yeah, so Madeline, we met because
Yes.
you were Ava's singing teacher.
Yes, and like singing teacher in French.
Yes.
Little.
Yes,
like,
or
tutoring.
French.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
We just hung out.
Yes.
In an educational.
Yeah, like my
setting.
daughter needs to know French.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah, like through a friend of a neighbor.
Yes.
So random.
Yes.
But obviously everything happens for a reason, and I definitely believe that. 'Cause
Yes.
Look at here we are, also aligned.
Yeah,
in
so
our
anytime we were
missions
talking,
and
you're
everything
saying,
that we want to do.
you know, you got to meet my mom. You got to meet my mom.
Oh, yeah.
Who's your mom?
Oh, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
she's just the soup queen.
Elena
Elena the queen.
Elena the queen.
Our friend Abby gave her a nickname.
Isabel, you're an actress.
That's what I do.
Or maybe she's just acting.
Burn.
All pretend.
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
thing.
Yeah. But yeah, so you guys, how do you do it? So you raise these two talented
I can't believe
women in Hollywood.
There are people asking for her eggs. In Hollywood.
true.
Like, you know, how do you, like,
I mean, brilliant, talented.
And I always tell people,
guys.
because everyone's always like, how did you guys end up so great? I'm just like, my mom raised us to like know that no was the beginning of the conversation.
Yes.
Break the rules. I mean, like everything your mom would normally not tell you. No, but that's important because like it forced us to like look into like what we wanted, and there was never like. If the answer was no, we really wanted it, we would have to come up with a like reason as to why an argument as to why we would get to, you know, like
Legal briefs.
Yes, yes.
Oh, for sure.
Then you need to come up with legal
at 7
briefs.
years old. Like
checkbooks.
Yeah,
We
with
had
checkbooks when we were kids. So I mean, it was a very, very crafty response. I must
Okay,
say.
so
Go
how do
Dad.
you guys deal with sibling rivalry? I mean, you're both in the business.
Rivalry. We don't have sibling rivalry. I mean, I am actually so happy that you brought that up because
Yeah,
people
'cause
love
everyone
love to
says
do
that.
People
that.
love
They
to
love to bring
instigate
it
it,
up.
and
Yes,
like,
they
create
do.
it. Like I'll be on live stream, people are like, "Where's Isabel? Where's Isabel?" And I'm like, "This is my channel. Like maybe you got lost. Like we have the same last name. We have the same last name, and we do look alike. So you could have totally gotten on the wrong page. But if Isabel's not in the video with me, then." Like we're here, like, and then people ask, like, do you ever, like, then they take it as, you know, oh, you must be jealous of Isabel because she has like more followers, and I'm like, no, but Isabel does her thing and I do my thing, and they're totally different.
Yeah, we
and
work in completely different circles.
although they can align in terms of like it's entertainment and it's all about like sharing our truth, if you will,
Yes.
like how we were raised, but like that just because everyone likes to get like off on a little drama doesn't mean that we have it between us. And it's
Yes.
like the immediate thing is like just jumps to like, oh, you guys like, you know, who you guys must be like, you
We
know.
do have fights though.
Yeah, of course.
But about little stupid things, like not about careers.
No, and most fights are about Isabel likes makeup and Madeline doesn't. So we always tell Madeline to put on makeup. And Madeline goes, no, I am not putting on makeup.
I am myself in this world. Thank you very much.
We have like the stupidest arguments, but it's never been like about work because we work in completely different circles. We have completely different things that we like to do. We share with each other a lot, but it's never been an argument. It's never been like a
And
thing.
we've collaborated before, like on videos. Like Isabel's
we
directed
work
my
with
music
each
videos.
other. It's important to support family,
is
and that's something that my mom
Yeah.
really instilled in us. Is like
Exactly.
family is like all you really have, and we always kind of like talk about it. It's always like a thing that we
And
do
you have your
argue
grandmother,
about
too,
sometimes,
right?
but.
We kind of owe it to each other what we both do because I was the actress and Isabel was the singer.
Yes, and you started off with going to an audition.
Right. I went to an
for-
audition. Isabel tagged along because my mom couldn't find a babysitter, and then that's just how.
I remember
it
then you
happened.
got
she
hired.
was just like super cute, and then we had to. we did the gig, and I had, I was a little overweight 10-year-old, and I had to sit in front of a piece of cake that I couldn't eat and laugh at bad jokes for a whole day. I mean, that was torture for me.
I loved it.
And she was like, let's do this
like
again and
every
again
day.
and again.
Oh my God, completely different.
She was like,
Then you said, I want to quit acting at that age?
I was like, this is not, like, I'll do stage. I like instant gratification. Like, I'm a performer at the end of the day. I'm an entertainer. And that's where, like, Isabel, thrives in television. Like, she's more methodical. She's, like, more about the subtleties. Like, I just like the show. Like, it's about, right? Like, I want you to laugh. I want you to feel it immediately. I want to know that I'm making you feel something immediately.
You can't tell, right?
Right? No, not at all.
My friends always joke. They're always like, wow, you're so, lively and eccentric and like hyper to me, and I'm like, you haven't met my sister and my mom and my grandma. I was like, so the way that it works is I'm the quietest one in my family, and then it's my mom, and then it's my sister, and then it's my grandma.
Yeah, because your grandma's a big part of this too, right?
Yeah, I got all the gangster from my grandma.
Yeah, she's an incredible woman too.
She's fearless.
Yeah.
Fearless women.
So are you guys going to do anything like that Kendall and Kylie? Are you going to do a clothing line and a makeup line?
There's, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but I said there's Don't Put the Firm in.
Right.
That is the truth, though, because, actually it's funny because our lives have been entirely documented. Like, my dad used to edit videos. We were doing this before the Kardashians, really, at the end of the day. But we weren't distributing it into the world because these were our personal videos.
Yeah.
But if you look at
you're the original.
We had edited content. We could have put out television shows of our trips to, and that would have been, I mean, Isabel singing Great Balls of Fire in the shower. I mean, tell me that's not great TV.
I loved that song when I was little, and we have this family video of me singing it in the shower. And I remember you showed it to my crush when I was in first grade, and I was so embarrassed because we were family friends, and so they came over and we watched it, and I just remember being like, that was like the first time I was like, no, I was like, no.
But no, like the Kendall Kylie thing, like we're a strong family, and I think we're navigating how our endeavors can all like come together in one place, and how they're going to cross in each other. Like we each have our own like lifestyle brands in a way, if you will. Like there's my mom has all about the soup and health, and Isabel's all about like she's like a true chameleon. Like she just like can morph into anybody. And I really focus on like this, like the soul, and like being in touch with your emotions and your awareness. And that's like, I think that is like a great basis for a life, like the next wave of Kardashians, the conscious Kardashians.
Conscious Kardashians.
Conscious Kardashians. They're gonna take that and make a new show. They're gonna take that and make a new show.
I'd love to have a successful clothing line like them one day, and maybe we'll do it. But like you never know. It's like that's the thing is like right now we're all on our own kind of paths, but we connect with how we talk about it with each other and how we look at each other for advice and support.
And everyone we know is like so connected. Like my mom meets people like that would help me. I meet people that I find would help her. Like we just are aware of each other's progress and what we're doing, and we want to help each other. So when we find ourselves in a situation,
but not just each other. I think for me, really, it's about projecting and doing good for others.
Yes. But that's what all of you guys are doing. You're all bringing joy and entertainment, media. I mean, I love what you're doing, Isabel. Just the goal of creating a show that is like showing family and showing something different instead of cliches.
Women in the industry, in any industry, and that's the thing is like, I remember when I was younger, I like wrote down that I wanted to have a studio that only funded projects for women writers and filmmakers and producers. And yes, it's not a studio yet, but
it
right
will
now
be.
that's something
You're 20.
that you know, yeah,
You're
Under my
20.
media group.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Conscious
we
content.
all
And
find
you're-
a way to work
Exactly.
together, and that's
Yes.
the great thing about
Yeah.
what we do as a family, and that's the great
You could
part
create
about
a company
having a
together.
family.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here.
thank you.
Elena Fuhrman, Isabel Fuhrman, and Madeline Fuhrman. Love you guys. Role models.
Fuhrmans.
Role models. Yeah. Love it. Thank you so much for being here.